16.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Allen?
Here.
Mayor Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Daugherty?
Here.
Mr. Burchett?
Here.
Mrs. Witt?
Here.
Ms. Marcus?
Here. We have the approval of the minutes for our May 25th reading. If there are no corrections, they will be approved as they are. Hearing none, they are approved. Finance Director, do you have a report?
I have no report tonight.
City Manager?
Yes, thank you. The only item would be, and I made reference to this, I believe, at the last meeting. We have an offer on our property that we own that is in significant disrepair on Beech Grove. And we had a tie, so to speak, on the second advertised property on Venetian. And we re-advertised that, and those offers came in on Monday. And we have a winning offer or bid, so to speak, on that as well. So we will be bringing those two for consideration at the next committee of the whole. We also have both properties appraised, which is part of the requirement. And then we'll talk a little bit about the offers that we have versus the appraised value and whether you would like to move forward with selling those. I will tell you that they are both eyesores that we own, and there's two separate winning offers from two different individuals, but ultimately that would get it into a productive, hopefully renovation, reuse, and get the property well taken care of and off our books as far as an eyesore in the city.
So both properties can be reused.
Yes,
Renewed.
it's going to take some significant renovations, but we do have offers, and they're both confident that they can repair them and get them occupied. That's all that I have.
Thank you. Mayor?
I have nothing to report, thank you.
Law Director?
No report, thank you.
Clerk of Council?
I have nothing to report, thank you.
Okay, we have business here. The first one is the West Carrollton School SRO agreement for 2023 to 2024 school year.
Yes, we have Deputy Chief Neubauer who will speak about this.
Yeah, so we're just asking the legislation be prepared to enter into a new contract for the 2023-2024 school year. We'd like to continue our relationship with the school and supply them with an SRO. The contract is identical to our previous contract that was approved, so we'd like to move forward with it. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we have legislation drawn up for the SRO agreement.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mr. Daugherty?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes. Next item is the amendment to MCO 121, council travel.
So I can talk about that, Ms. Marcus. So basically what the suggestion here is to have legislation put forth at the next meeting to amend MCO 121.04. That provides currently that council shall pass a resolution in its first meeting in January for all the travel that council is going to engage in for that particular year. The request that has been discussed is changing that so that instead of adopting that resolution at the first meeting in January, that resolution is adopted at the end of the year, before the close of the year. So if there's travel that's going to occur before that first meeting in January, that can be approved the prior year. So that's the request, is to move the legislation forward to amend MCO 121.04 to accomplish that.
I'll make a motion that we have amendment MCO 121 on the agenda for next council meeting.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Daugherty?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes. The third item is the change order request for the 2023 concrete program, complete replacement of two basins on Chief Woods Lane and West Dorothy Lane.
Yes, I've got that one. Basically doing, again, further regular work through the street department and the engineers area. We evaluated the two catch basins, and they were basically evaluated at a point of being at complete failure. And so we are looking to get those replaced because of the complexity, the size, the areas that they're in, safety requirements and such. When we got the quotes, it was brought to our attention that if we were to move this into the regular concrete program that we do each year, that it would be a little bit easier, a little easier to facilitate the project itself and those kind of things. And so it was the recommendation of the engineer that we do this through a change order. So that is the request, that we take funding from our stormwater maintenance program and move that into this contract so that the reconstruction can be completed, again, by the same company. We did get 2 quotes. And again, LJ DeWeese was the company that received the concrete program contract. They put in the low bid for doing this work. And again, after our discussion, it just became clear that the easiest way for us to do this would be through a change order with that contract. So that is the request. There's no additional funding needed. We have the funding within our regular programs to do this. Again, it'd just be easier if we were to do a change order. So that is the request, a change order covering catch basin reconstruction in the amount of $32,305. And that would be amended onto the concrete program contract that was originally awarded at $452,800. If there's any questions, otherwise that is the request.
Make a motion that we have legislation for a change order request for the 2023 concrete program for the 2 basins.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mr. Darty?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes. The final option on here is a budget transfer request, community development personnel to community development operations.
Yep, that is in my area as well. In essence, we are kind of coming to a point in the year that we need to make some adjustments on our funding. When we went through the budget process last year, we anticipated having people in place, the engineer's position, a chief building officer, and planner. And because we have not filled those positions, we have used outside contractors to cover those duties. A lot of the things have gone to NIC. We've augmented their contract and such. But all of those contracts have been funded through engineering services or contractual services. The budget that was put in place at the end of the year for 23 was $158,427. We realized at some point, depending on how hiring went, that we would need to put some more money into those areas. That is the request, is to take some dollars from our personnel side, the funding that was set aside for the engineer, the planner, chief building official, and then put those into contractual services so that we can continue having our services come through on a timely basis. So again, we've had some real good success with the process. I think everybody is working well together. And so in working with the finance director, we kind of came together on some numbers with that. This would be a transfer of $279,644 to go into the engineering services. This would leave us with enough funding to bring on employees if in fact we went ahead and re-advertised late summer and found qualified candidates to bring on there. So we will leave some money in those budgets, but in order to continue the services in those areas for the rest of the year, we are requesting a budget transfer from personnel into operations, and that does require city council approval. So the request is a resolution allowing that budget transfer to take place. And again, the finance director said he was comfortable with the numbers and in good shape for doing this. So that is the request. If there are any questions.
Yes. So are we spending more on contractual services than we would if we had full-time employees?
No, we are not.
So then-
But we're at a point, we did, when we funded contractual services, it was the expectation that we would have those staff. Since we don't have those staff, we need to increase that line because the contractual services for other items that we do every year. But now that we're actually minimal hours, but we're contracting out, as Mr. Eisenbrown said, for like zoning inspections, which we use national inspection services all along.
Right.
If the building official was on vacation or out sick or anything like that, but obviously that level was increased. So it is not at the level of what we would be paying for the position, but it's obviously more than we had budgeted or anticipated in contractual services. And that would be the same. We're not necessarily doing it for the planner position. We're handling most of that in-house between me and Matt. But we are doing that obviously with engineering as well. The things that have come before you, we've used both Chuck and Alicia on some of those items throughout the year. So not anticipating that because, thinking we would have staff in place, we have to elevate the cost. But again, we're not increasing the budget at all. We're essentially taking money from one pocket
So-
and putting it in the other. And last thing I would say is that it has to come before you because we're proposing to take money from the personnel item, personnel line item. Yeah.
So where are we with hiring?
Well,
Do we have
as you,
anyone on the horizon?
as you know, we have been waiting, so we were somewhat successful with the planner position, but then that applicant did not accept. And we've been struggling on the compensation side, and as you know, we're in the midst of the compensation study, and I'd sent a recent email out on that, and we expect the meeting on the point factoring and surveying went very well. We have another meeting scheduled at the end of the month where we're hoping that they'll start providing some recommendations that I will then schedule a retreat with all of you to discuss.
Okay.
And knowing that, we wanted to wait to understand maybe what the possible new pay scales would be before we went out. And we also know that on two of the positions, they're very challenging right now. Other jurisdictions also have vacancies in those. And quite frankly, on the engineering front, we might end up having the contract with a much larger firm for a year or two before that switches to where we could bring someone in-house. So, but we're waiting until we gain some support for what would possibly be the new scales within the table of organization. But as you know, any other position, the deputy clerk of courts, the HR administrator, those we have been advertising, as well as our positions within the Parks and Rec department, those are consistently going out. And we have been getting some viable applicants. So, on some of it, Parks and Rec, I think it's fair to say we're struggling a little bit, right, Chandler? Yeah, so, on the part-time and seasonal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
Nope.
We have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we do a budget transfer resolution for going from operations from personnel to operations.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Darty?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes. That's all of the business, so we'll go to staff and council reports. Start with the fire department,
No report, thank you, ma'am.
police department,
No report, thank you.
street department,
No report, thank you.
building department,
No report, ma'am, thank you.
parks and rec,
No report, thank you.
community development.
Other than thank you for the two items that we were just discussing, no other report tonight.
Clerk of council,
I have nothing, thank you.
law director,
No, ma'am, thank you.
finance director. I have no report. City manager,
I have nothing further, thank you.
mayor,
I have nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Burchett,
No.
Mr. Dougherty,
No report, thanks.
Mr. Miller,
Nothing further, thank you.
Mrs. Witt,
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Allen.
Nothing, thank you.
I have one question, though. The last three of you down there, are you coordinated on purpose?
We will not answer that.
We look good.
We didn't want to announce it, but we got the Fashion Police Award for.
I just wondered if I missed the memo.
Your seat, by the way, 4 is a 4, so you guys are good.
They look like a singing group.
I told them they looked good.
Well, I have nothing else, so this meeting is adjourned at 6:31.